this group is that we come from different backgrounds. We come from essentially, to some degree, different cultural perspectives on an issue that is of primary importance to each of us as individuals and to our countries. We have this opportunity to share with each other our perspectives, to actually try to see if in our process of creation, this script that we create reflects an analysis of this situation that is provocatively deeper and more insightful because we made it. Because an Israeli was sitting at the table while we discussed this situation. Because Iranians were sitting at the table while we discussed this, and Americans were present. Can we actually have a more insightful analysis of this situation collectively than we would have had individually?
It was only after the Revolutionary Council assumed power that I realized how anti-Semitic they were. The Jews are the world's cancer. They control everything. They arouse conflict everywhere. They rob and exploit. The protocols of the Elders of Zion suddenly appeared in every bookstore. In every convention, the Holocaust was denied.
In America, you only get respect if you are white-skinned. We're all second-class citizens to the Americans. They will respect you if you have the bomb. Why should Iran not have the bomb when Israel, Pakistan, and India do? Even North Korea. The bomb is our only way to be acknowledged as first-class human beings.
The world cannot allow Iran to develop a nuclear bomb, Nina. That's all there is to it. This is where we draw the line. Who's next? Syria? Egypt?
Hey, we're the good guys here, okay? Camp David, Oslo. Maybe you're confusing us with one of your Hamas friends.
It seems like someone is always profiting from war, and I keep wondering who will profit from this one. I remember back to the Peloponnesian Wars so many years ago. So much money grubbing going on back then, and for what? Let me think. Let's see. Religion! Ah, religion, that's a good one.
Islamic Republic says, God told me do this. American administration says, God told me do this. You know, and Israeli Knesset says, God told me do this. It's that whole idea of it is not us, it is God who tells us what to do, therefore we must do it.
I've always been challenged by religion. I think that secretly, I've always wanted to be religious. I always wanted to be religious, and somehow I wasn't able to believe. I was never able to make this leap from watching or exploring the world in a rational way, to this assumption, which is irrational, that there's God in this universe. And I've been puzzled by people who were able to do it. I've been intrigued by them. I was jealous at them that they were able to be religious. On the other hand, I saw the tragic results of the power that clergies of all kinds accumulated. And I realized very quickly how religion has been abused, and how God has, the concept of God has been abused by many religions, not only Judaism and Islam, but since I'm living in the Middle East where it's Judaism versus Islam, then on both sides there's a terrible abuse of the term, of the concept of God, and it became, in a paradoxical way, God has become the reason for wars. God has become the reason for death. God has become the reason for self-destruction.
I gave it a great deal of thought, and I read the Bible, which Nothing in my life had forced me to read the Bible until this moment. And I'm uncomfortable with that story, and I have some serious reservations about using it.
We haven't embedded it in our characters. So now we have this sort of vestigial interest in the meaning of religion in this context, but it's not embedded in the characters we've got happening. So if we just bring some religiousness into the play in a imagistic or metaphorical or symbolic way, it's not connected.
Okay, maybe I've gone too far with talking about religion, but what we began with talking about. Catch this.
I think we all were very excited by meeting each other, and we felt very inspired. And then over time, and over several conversations over the next months, I think the seeds of ideas came together, and images that, repeating images like the handshake, the story of Khatami and Katsaf being from the same town and meeting at the Pope's funeral. You know, Katsaf is the president of Israel, and Khatami at the time was the president of Iran. And at Jean Paul's funeral, the heads of state were seated in alphabetical order. So Iran and Israel were seated next to each other. And the two men are from the same town in Iran. Katsaf is was born in Iran. And so there was a report of the two men talking and shaking hands. And this image of these two leaders shaking hands was a lasting image that came up over and over again. And I think Moti at that point found inspiration in the story of, two friends who were born in Iran, one Jewish, one Muslim, who then over time separate.
You put on some weight.
Well, so have you.
I've also lost my hair. Thankfully, you can't see.
But in this case, everybody's going back to the drawing board. So, the writers are rewriting, and and so one of the challenges has been coming up with, a kind of spatial realization of what's there structurally in the play when the play wasn't fully there. So coming up with ideas sort of as it is at this current moment. And I think part of what I enjoy in a real collaboration is that ability to have ideas, push against other people with ideas, and then throw out ideas when they're no good anymore, instead of holding on and to the ideas and turning blue and saying I must have this. That in a real collaboration, an interesting collaboration, at a certain point it doesn't matter whose idea it is, whether it's an idea for directing or an idea for a design, because I've been making suggestions to the other collaborators, in terms of things that would be considered the director's purview. But I consider that the design has consequences, ramifications. It affects the directing, and the directing obviously affects the design, and all of it is affected by the writing. So instead of saying, I'm only doing my own little bit, I think we've all been participating, in the design, working with, I haven't worked much with Andy Lyons, we've just spoken a tiny bit, but conversations with Denise about the costumes, with the writers, with Mahmoud, the director. And it all shifts, it keeps moving, and you just get closer and closer and closer. So, in a way, one of the big changes was a kind of simplification, going back to something that was almost there from the beginning as an idea, but then got more complicated. It seemed to make sense in the middle of the process, and then some of that was simplified, and we went back to something that was really simpler. But I thought what about the possibility of actually splitting the platform, say by about 6 inches? Marty, you had the image of the earth breaking. And if the audience came in and it was bare to begin with, and then the narrator, or in the course of the narration or something, brought in the chorus people, bring in the carpet either this way or that way, bring in the furniture, so that essentially it's now solid. But the audience knows that it's very fragile and tenuous, and maybe that's too specific, too direct, not workable. But it could go back to being one piece again. Anyway, it was an idea I had.
Then we go to junkyards together, the Army Navy stores. Find anything that relates to war. Come into the space and place it in the space, as opposed to building, as opposed to designing it. Place it in the space, allow the actors to work with it, and then if there need to go from one level to another, we can use this kind of stuff all the time.
As soon as you told me about the project, this just sounds too exciting not to be a part of it.
There'd be no problem. So for me, the real issue is the shrouding when they come in, and then the extra characters, and how do we deal with them?
That's going to lessen the angle, which means it's going to tend to hit more of the audience in the eyes.
The idea that maybe, the smoke, a little bit singed edges to it, but fairly realistic looking.
Less is definitely more. These things are going to be more effective if there's only one thing.
How many of these?
Mahmoud was saying 500. I think there's 150 that go around.
I have been very moved by the intensity of the love people show each other on a daily basis when we're together. The longing that's evident in each of the participants to keep the bridge open. People are working so hard to understand the other person's point of view. They want to express honestly who they are, but they care about whether that's being heard by the other person. And when they feel they have violated someone else, they are quick and ready to reach out afterwards in apology or in a gesture of reconciliation or an expression of affection. It is truly moving to see how much energy everyone is putting, how much goodwill everyone is putting towards the project.
If you have the cross, the cross, you can use it for the wings and the mask of the.
That would be a very funny idea. Offending
everyone.
You got enough light for this?
They even just take a shirt
They
off.
take t-shirt off completely.
Yeah, like the Italians are doing. I'll show you. Hold me. I'm so happy, I tell you. I'm really very.
It's been a good day.
Yeah. No, forgive me.
Uh-oh.
Oh God, Brian, again you missed it. Collaborating with people like Marty is a very, very difficult thing to do. We spend a whole week just seeing whether we can listen to each other. Both because we both were carrying a bag of historical distrust towards one another, as an Israeli and as an Iranian. Also because we are coming from two different traditions of theater, completely. And as artists, we had the challenge of understanding each other. And to keep all that together, we needed to create some kind of a mixture of various styles that would also work for the audience, that would also communicate to the audience. And as such, the play became a mixture. It's very difficult it's very difficult to work with a group of people who have very different ideas and come up with one coherent, comprehensive piece of work that could relate to the audience. And to everybody's credit, I think that's what we did, without much compromising our own sides. You know, I don't think Monty compromised from his style. I don't think Torange compromised from her style. I don't think I did from mine. You know, and we were able to somehow bring these three different way of looking at theater into the same space and present it to the audience and connect to the audience, make sense of it.
Hello. Hello, welcome, and good afternoon to you all. I am your host this afternoon, and I'm here to tell you a story. Your story, yours and mine. Today, we embark upon a journey. For every story is a journey, and this one is no exception. So long as you take no exception to the telling. Our story is about brothers. Two brothers. Two brothers. Not much alike, not so very different. One hungry for power, the other for love. One chosen by his country, one by his God. Zamane saru saru puras jengu. Bajuyan gamar jahan tangud. The time was filled with war, for the world was too small for those who sought conquest. Zamane saru saru puras jengu. Bajuyan gamar jahan
You can bring any percussive or any other instrument you want. This whole space in here is yours. No, listen to what she said, and then play with it. I mean, you've got this, you've got this. It's one other thing that can add to it. I mean, you can add another thing. You're looking up there, you're down here. What if you want to put this right behind? Okay? And can you slide down on that, Paul? Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Tell me that. You're late, Chris. You're late. Go, 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 go. You're late. You're late. You're late. You're late. So let us fill this space with this. As you go, I want the whole campus to know that play, the dead bodies are walking. It's dead men walking. Okay? That's what it is. You can repeat that. That's good.
Tonight, we embark upon a journey that will take us to secret places, holy places, sorrowful places.
It's groundbreaking in that because I think of the number of collaborators and the fact that I came in on it so early in the process. and that the writing continued to shift even through some preliminary design things. So to me, that's very exciting. And knowing that that there will be changes after this, that this is getting it up on its feet, but I imagine that we will all know a lot, and for future productions, think about differences that will happen in the design, in the directing, in the writing.
We've been very lucky that Siena College was able and agreed actually to support the process right from the beginning. We did several workshops here in the college. The workshops were amazing experiences. It was actually the first time in my life that I was sitting with Iranians, artists. They are not living in Iran. I'm talking about Mahmoud and Tourange, who are Iranian in exile, but the knowledge of Iran is huge. And for the first time, we start negotiating what are we going to write about.
So I came up with these characters in the White House, the president, chief of staff. So I wrote scenes with them, so I wrote these White House scenes, and as well as narrator scenes. And then when I came here, we talked in more detail about where is the play taking place, at what time point. We tried to make the time point more critical, give it more urgency, that the US has given an ultimatum to Iran. Previous negotiations have fallen through. We have a new president in the White House, it's a woman. And as the narrator says in the play, the hope is that with a woman in the White House and with more women in positions of power, that that they can actually make a difference, that they can shift the military-focused policies, shift them to a more, humanistic or a peace-minded approach. So then, we really focused the play time-wise to 72 hours before the attack. So that's sort of the time point where the play takes place.
If only women were in charge, the world would be completely different. No wars, no armies, more funding for the arts. I get so tired of men bickering all the time and making things so difficult for the rest of us. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, it is our good fortune that we have women in our table this afternoon.
Good morning, Tommy. Has anything changed since our last briefing? General McKinley, have I been unclear in any way? And that is my decision.
Madam President, there are more women in the Iranian parliament than the U.S. Senate. I will do anything in my power to stop that from happening.
It was an honor to serve with you, Madam President.
We decided that we are going to take the actual location and make that the essential part of this play, meaning that the location allowed for the handshake to happen or not happen. And as such, Benedictus, being a monastery, being a place where such things apparently does happen in history, such meetings between political leaders happens, was a perfect choice. So Benedictus meant something, and it was also, it had a religious overtone. It is some kind of a connection between the religious aspect of the play and the political aspect of the play, the fact that political decisions are made within a religious environment. All of these were ideas that brought us to Benedictus. This is something good coming from above to us, something that we have been given, a gift, for the lack of a better word, a gift that we have been given, a gift that we can have a dialogue. And that was what we were trying to stress in the production, that we do have this gift of dialogue, and we're not using it.
We were part of the revolution from the beginning. Together we attacked the Shah's armories. Together we ran away from the police. Together we fought on the barricades in the street. You carried me on your shoulders when I was wounded in Jolly Square on Black Friday. The moment the Revolutionary Guard was established, I suddenly became a Jew.
I thought very highly of you. I believed in you. If you'd stayed, you would have been elected to Parliament.
If I'd have felt you wanted me, I'd have remained in your ministry even as a janitor.
We wanted you. We were prepared to take you back even after you fled. But instead of coming back, you suddenly became a Zionist and joined a gang of imperialist criminals who torture and brutalize occupied people cramped in stinking refugee camps.
So why did you agree to meet with me then?
Because you were the best midfielder I'd ever seen. I remember at least 4, maybe even 5 of your passes that led to unforgettable goals. Because, thanks to you, I didn't slash my veins in the Shah's prison. We must prevent this war, Usher. When the Americans attack, one-ton bombs will fall like rain, not only on nuclear facilities, on military bases, government offices, schools, stadiums, bridges, roads. Hundreds of thousands will be torn to shreds, burned alive, crippled. What the Americans did in Iraq and Afghanistan was a fireworks display compared to what they will do to us.
Since when have you people had such respect for human life? In the war with Iraq, you sacrificed 500,000 people without batting an eye. You sent 7-year-olds to clear minefields. Where were you then?
I was one of the people who did everything to stop that. I was in the minority then, and I failed. Today, I can lead a more powerful opposition with other people who have also had enough of the Islamic Republic. We want freedom. We want democracy. We want separation of church and state and to rebuild our economy. I have such people in the business community, among intellectuals, students, even in the military. This time, we will succeed. People in Iran don't want a war with America. They want a way out, and so do the Americans. And the Americans will understand the benefit of cooperating with us.
You're interested in backwardness.
The Americans are not my teachers.
You are a dangerous nation.
The U.S. wants to keep us backward.
You're the world champion in stalling.
You want America to destroy us, smash us, annihilate us.
Cities will be destroyed. The earth will be covered in nuclear fallout. It'll be impossible to live on it. And I'll do everything in my power to prevent that from happening.
We find ourselves propelled towards towards current events. And that unites us because all of our countries are at risk should things proceed as they promise to proceed at this point. So I think we all share the desire to issue a warning through the play that this could be the way things proceed.